and welcome to this edition of Good Business Pays TV, where we hear from people who pay fast. They pay their suppliers fast. And today we are joined by a couple of folks from TSB Bank, who were one of the Fast Payer Award winners back in November 2022. In fact, they won 2 years running, 2021 and 2022. And the point of this broadcast today is to hear a little bit about the TSB story and from the people behind that organisation that make things run fast. So we're joined by Kate today and Rebecca. Kate, would you like to tell us a little bit about TSB, of course? We think we know, but we might not know all about them, and about your role there, please.
Yeah, certainly, Terry. Thank you. Yes, so TSB is a medium-sized bank. We're around about the 7th largest by kind of the number of branches and the people who work with us and the number of customers that we have. And we serve around about 5 million customers through our branches, through video and telephone banking, and online. And we've got a pretty long heritage, actually. So we've been around for more than 200 years. We started at the right at the beginning of the saving banks movement, which kind of means that we're quite rooted in our traditions and the way that we want to support communities. So for me, I head up the responsible business team at TSB, and what that means is that I lead the work that we do under our Do What Matters plan, which is our responsible business strategy, and that encompasses a whole range of things, but collectively the actions that sit under that add up to supporting financial and social inclusion, driving and advocating for fair business practice, and supporting a just transition to a greener planet.
Thank you, Kate. And Rebecca, same question to you. Tell us a bit about your role and how you work in the bank.
Yeah. So I am part of the accounts payable team. And within the team, my role is called the AP processor. So I am essentially like the final person that will see and do any of the final checks on any invoices before they are released and then paid to the vendors and suppliers. So it's up to me essentially to do that final check on any invoices, make sure we've got all the correct information, we've got sufficient funds against purchase orders, etc., to be able to pay those invoices. There's a lot of correspondence between internal and external contacts to be able to get invoices to this place. So it's really important kind of within our role that we're really efficient with our time management and getting that correct communication. I also, doing the invoices, we also do internal reports on a weekly and monthly basis, where we can track how we're doing with paying our suppliers within the print payment. And then any that haven't been paid within terms, we can then also reflect, see what has been working, what hasn't been working, and then put plans in place going forward of how we can improve that throughout the year.
Terrific, thank you. Kate, I'm going to come back to you with the first question and link some of the things that Rebecca just mentioned, probably to my questions as we go through. But can you tell us a bit more about the Do What Matters plan? I think that's what you call it, Do What Matters plan. What I'm interested in particular is why TSB Bank thinks that paying suppliers fast, promptly, on time matters, and how that fits into your Do What Matters plan.
Yeah, so the Do What Matters plan is basically demonstrating a commitment that we've made to wider society. So it's focused on, obviously doing the right thing for our customers, doing what matters for the people that work in the bank, by paying them fair wages. But, with our wider commitment to society, that includes our supply chain. It also includes the communities that we work in. When we were devising the plan, it was actually around the time that the pandemic hit in 2020. And so we were looking for things where we felt that we could make the biggest difference that had an impact and meant something to our constituents. So, paying our supply chain at that time was vitally important. And it was one of the things that we decided very early on that we wanted to get behind and to do and deliver.
And the reports that Rebecca mentioned around how well is the bank doing, how far up the chain of command do they go in terms of being seen and being acted upon?
So these go up to executive level. So obviously I produce it. They then go off to, so the weekly and monthly stats that I produce are for internal recording purposes only. And then H1 and H2 for each year are then reported externally on the BEIS website, which is part of the government, which is the British Energy and Industrial Strategy portal. So yes, they go for myself. I produce them along with a couple of other people with their support, and then it goes off to the managers, and then it goes to executive on a monthly basis. So yeah,
I think it's worthwhile adding. Sorry, Rebecca. I think it's worthwhile adding, Terry, that also when we first set out the prompt payment, this was quite a change to some of our behaviours in the bank. And so every single month, the stats were going to the executive level so that their function leads could see how individual invoices were being progressed through the system. So there was both scrutiny and accountability at the most senior level in the organisation.
So this is something, and I've seen this at a few fast-paying companies, that in a sense, you're taking the values and the mission of the organisation at the do what matters level, but operationalizing them in AP, and then bringing it back up to the executive level to check whether that operationalizing is actually working.
Yeah, absolutely.
And from a business case perspective, you know, some CFOs might say, well, the best thing to do is to conserve cash for the company. Why would we hand out the money that we've got to other suppliers before we need to? Well, how is the business? I know you describe it as doing the right thing, but what is the actual business case for the bank? Do you see examples of, because we've paid these small suppliers faster, something better has happened as a result?
Do you want me to answer that one? I'll try. So I mean, by us, I always think, so by us paying our suppliers quickly, it then means we can then potentially be in a position where we can negotiate like quick payment rates with them. So if we get essentially like a preferential rate or a slight discount because we pay them within quicker terms of what they're expecting, we can then pass that on to provide better services, quicker services, and then it can kind of go all the way down the chain to our branch customers, online customers, etc. So they're going to receive better services and potentially save money as well.
I think there's also, we've seen kind of efficiency being driven in the business because, you know, to pay quickly, we really had to look at every step of our process, and we ironed out some of the wrinkles and some of the duplication, and we invested quite heavily some time in getting people to understand the steps they needed to take to be able to pay quickly. And now that we've got that as part of our kind of DNA, I suppose you could call it, it's, you know, the whole process just moves much more swiftly. There's like I said, there's clear accountability and ownership for, you know, if you have a supplier and you're buying something, you know, wherever you sit in the business, you're responsible for making sure that that payment is made within the agreed timescales. So I think it's kind of changed a bit of a mindset for us in the bank.
Now, I know that the TSB is quite involved with pushing the idea of faster payment through all channels, including the government channels. I was invited to a very successful TSB event at Westminster just a couple of weeks ago, where the Small Business Minister, the Shadow Small Business Minister, Small Business Commissioner were all there talking about faster payment. What do you think TSB's advice to other organisations should be, and to the government should be, around faster payment? Do you have a view on that at all?
Well, I mean, I have a view. My view very clearly is that it is the right thing to do. So if you receive a goods or services, you should be paying for them in a timely way. But equally, I think there's something about the small businesses, medium-sized businesses, they're the kind of the backbone of Britain. So, and they are the ones that are most likely to be adversely impacted if they don't get their invoices paid on time. And that cash flow, can have a lasting damage, not only on those businesses, but on the British economy, of which we are part of. So for me, it's incumbent on everybody, wherever they sit in the chain, to play their part and to basically stump up the cash when they've received a good or service.
Absolutely.
And do you have a different strategy around speed of payment to larger companies than smaller companies? Is it all the same? And if you do have a different approach to small businesses, one of the problems that sometimes people point out is knowing who the small businesses are, how they identify themselves. How, maybe it's for Rebecca, this one, how do you approach that difference between paying small and large and identifying the small, if you have a different approach?
So all invoices that we receive into TSB, we've got tight SLAs that we try and abide to, from as soon as they're received into the business, going through to being uploaded onto our system, processed and paid, and kind of leaving us and going to them. As for differentiating between the larger and then the small and medium enterprises, so small and medium enterprises, we have developed these and prioritized in our daily work processes that we do to get these ones essentially through the system a little bit quicker than the other ones, because we have created a pledge where we will pay any small and medium enterprises within 10 calendar days. So on a daily basis, obviously not including weekends, I produce a separate report that highlights the small and medium enterprises, where they are in the system, and if they're sat with someone for approval, or if there's an issue with it, then the appropriate action can be taken so that we can get it resolved within a timely manner, so we can get it out the door within 10 days. Larger enterprise invoices is still exactly the same, but obviously it's not the same time pressure, because we pledged to pay those within 30 days, not 10 days. So we have got slightly longer, but we still have the exact same process of chasing and monitoring those as well. As for differentiating between small, medium and large enterprises, so small and medium ones, I believe our differentiation for them is to do with their annual turnover and the number of employees that they have.
And do you get them to tell you that information in the process of signing up suppliers? Is that how you?
Yeah, so at the onboarding process of any new vendor, it has to come from whoever the business manager is for that supplier. They send in the request form from that business, and there's certain questions on there that we can differentiate whether or not they're going to be determined as a small and medium enterprise.
So, Kate, I've got a question which is sort of your 3 tips, if you like, or 3 pieces of advice for other large businesses. Clearly, for TSB, this is a strategy that's working. It's part of your broader ESG, if you like, or CSR strategy. But talking to other businesses in the kind of role that you have, what advice would you give them on why they should change their behavior? Because you are in a small amount of companies that pay fast. We only found 270 companies out of 5,000 that qualified for this fast payment award. So clearly you're in the minority, but a brilliant minority. What advice would you have for other large organizations?
So are you talking about advice in how to do it, or reasons why you should do it?
The reasons why you should do it.
Okay. So, I mean, I think that there are a fair few reasons, but not least, most businesses will be setting themselves up to be some kind of responsible business. It's absolutely demanded of us by, customers, our stakeholders, and the people who work for us. And it is such a significant proof point to say that you put your money where your mouth is when it comes to supporting kind of like the ecosystem of business. So for me, if you want credibility and authenticity in this particular space, then you absolutely need to do that. I think the other stuff is it feels like a really tricky thing to do. If some, you know, when we were approached to do this, first off, we were like, oh, God, how the heck are we going to do it? But it just shows that when you're really determined, and I think the pandemic basically encouraged that kind of behavior in a lot of business, to think outside of their normal norms and to challenge their processes. I think if you can just set yourself that challenge of how could we make this happen, you'll find it's not that it won't be difficult, but it might be easier than they think. So that would be my advice. Have a go, and and then you can be authentic.
Thank you. And Rebecca, probably the more specific question to you around, are there specific things that you would recommend to sort of people that run AP departments or finance and procurement? I do get quite a lot of pushback from organisations that said it isn't possible to pay people this fast without processes. What tips would you have for other people in the AP world and the finance world? Here are the 3 or 4 things you should do to make this happen.
I suppose number one thing is absolutely to have strong communication and good teamwork within the varying departments and teams that do this. So accounts payable, we work very closely with procurement and the supplier managers. And then kind of from working with them, we can then filter through, when needed, we can provide training and support to other partners within TSB about the importance of why it's right getting invoices correct the first time, so it doesn't delay. Trying to think what else. Teamwork, strong communication. I mean, those are the 2 absolute pivotal ones that we do. But I think also, like we've touched on before, is trying to be efficient with our processes. So taking that time to review what you do on a daily basis and how you do it, and see whether or not you can streamline it to make it like quicker and more workable and more user friendly. Because then as soon as you can do things like that, then everyone can do it. If you've got any new starters, having a good training plan, and just building a strong accounts payable team. Like we've got an extremely strong team. We're only a small team within the business, but we all work really well together. We all communicate really well, and we have regular meetings. And like communication throughout the day. We've got Teams chats that if we've got any problems, we can just pick up to each other and get it sorted.
Brilliant, thank you. Well, that's pretty much the end of it. We're up to 16 or 17 minutes of really good experience. Thank you to TSB on behalf of the sort of 6 million small businesses of the UK, because you're doing a great job there. Thank you, Kate, and thank you, Rebecca. Is there anything else that you wanted to cover before we close for today? Any other messages that you might want to give?
No, just thank you for the opportunity. It's we love talking about this stuff because we're really proud of it.
Yeah.
So thank you for having me. I think that's
well, so you should.
Hopefully it's been useful.
It will be very useful. Thank you for joining us today, and we look forward to you winning your next award in November 2023.
Fingers crossed.